Live streaming is on.
Good evening. Welcome to the September meeting of the Baton Rouge Astronomical Society. Before we start into our program tonight, we have Barry from the PAS, the Ponchatrain Astronomical Society. Ponchatrain. I'm sorry, Ponchatrain. I don't know how to say it. It's Ponchatrain. I don't know why I know that. Anyway, Barry wants to have a few words to us about the Deep South Stargaze. So, Barry, would you like to say something here?
Okay, some of y'all know me, some don't. Once again, my name is Barry Simon. I live in New Orleans and have been a member of the Ponchatrain Astronomical Society since 1979. And we have been doing the Deep South Stargaze. Started as a Deep South Regional Stargaze back in 1983 when we held our very first one at Percy Quinn State Park near Macomb, Mississippi. 22 years there, then at a location called Camp Ruth Lee for 4 years and the Feliciana Retreat Center for 9 years. And since 2018, we've held it at a place called the White Horse Christian Retreat Center, which is located between Bogalusa, Louisiana and Columbia, Mississippi. This current location is our darkest sky locations. Our skies hover on the Bortle 3, Bortle 4 boundary. So we get good dark skies and we have much lower horizons. So you get more of a sense of seeing the whole sky. When we do our spring scrimmage in typically late April, early May, to the south, you can see the Omega Centaurus globular cluster. Anyway, the 40th annual Deep South Stargaze is coming up starting on Tuesday, October 25th, running to Sunday morning, October 30th. This is, as I said, year number 40. We are now the oldest continuously held Stargaze in the United States without a break. One or two that are a year or two older than us had a break of a year or two with COVID. We did not. We've sallied forth, so to speak. Typically now at the new site, our registration runs 50, 55 people, somewhere in that range. We have bunkhouses. We have a fairly good sized contingent of people that come in RVs and campers. We have about 6 right now, maybe more, 30 amp hookups. Some people tent camp, some people who are concerned about the weather in a tent. You can set up your tent inside the large barn if you want to. In the area, we have some opportunities for adventure. There's an area called the Little Grand Canyon of Mississippi, also known as Red Bluffs, which is a good area to explore. And for some who do not know this, there was a project that went on back in 1964 called Project Dribble. It was the only atomic bomb blast east of the Mississippi River in the United States in 1964, with detonations placed inside of a salt dome. The objective was to see if they could hide it or mask it from the public and from curious parties in other countries of the world. Look it up on YouTube. It's a very interesting story. But anyway, the Stargaze registration's $35. If you stay for 5 nights, our overnight bunk fee goes down to, I think, $25. 1 night or 2, it's $35. And they're good places to eat in the area. I have a registration form too that I can leave that can be reprinted. Also, if anybody wants to write it down, if you want to look it up online through our dedicated site, that's dssg.boards, boards.net. You can see plenty of pictures. Some of y'all may have seen on your website today on the Star Parties and Forums, I posted 9 pictures from the last Stargaze a year ago. So you've got that to look at in terms of some night sky pictures and some daytime pictures. So a lot there. Do I have any questions from anybody about the Stargaze? Well, once again, I said the dates start Tuesday, October 25th, run to the 30th, but there's no obligation to come for all 5 nights. Some people come for just a night or 2, and sometimes they'll register for a night or 2, and they'll look at the weather and see what's the best opportunity. We do this thing this time of year because it's typically our better weather. anywhere from the latter third of October into the first third of November for the Deep South, and then in the spring, the latter third of April into the first third of May for the spring scrimmage. So unless there's any questions, I'll sit down and shut up, and you can get on with the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I just want to add one in. I went, the last time I attended was about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was the first year maybe at the White Horse I did that.
That would be in 18, 20.
Yeah, 2018 on it there. And for those of you who might not be all that familiar with the Borel scale, the SQM readings, which I took there, was 20.8, 20.9, if I remember correctly. So it's one of the darkest sites around our general area here. Okay, now, next up here, I want to introduce our speaker for tonight. It's Don Weinell, longtime member, officer many times here. And he's going to be talking about this Dob, I guess it is here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go and turn it over to Don now and let him go on and talk to you about it there, Don.
Thank you. I guess I'm the consolation speaker tonight since they couldn't get any real speakers. Craig says, well, why don't you do a show and tell on your telescope, on your new telescope? Well, I feel kind of guilty calling it a new telescope now because I've had it for almost 3 years, but I got it right before the pandemic. So that's when all the star parties in the country just disappeared. And so I've only used it a few times at star parties, but this next year, maybe it'll turn out better again. I'm not sure how this is going to work with the streaming because if I'm working down low,
Is it possible? Do you think you can put it on the table?
not weight wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can point the camera down.
Well, okay, you might just
All
have
the
to
way
kind of
like
follow me
that.
as we go along.
There you go.
It's down, it's
You got
down.
Okay, so.
So we're gonna cut your head
So
off.
now-
Well, I'll be down there in a second too, so.
All right.
So I know most of y'all probably have telescopes, but since there's a big variety of telescopes out there, you may or may not be as familiar with the Dobsonian telescope. And the Dobsonian telescope, so named by its creator or its popularizer, was John Dobson. He was with the San Francisco Sidewalk Astronomers. And he wanted to design and build a simple telescope that could be taken to where the people are. Set it out on the sidewalk, let people walk by, look at it. Something that was stable, easily taken apart, put together, not very expensive. And so he never really liked it being called a Dobsonian telescope, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. So from now on, everybody calls it Dobsonians. It's a Dobsonian Newtonian because it uses mirrors instead of lenses to bring the light into focus. So, so this one is made by Obsession Telescopes. They're based in Mills Lake, Wisconsin. And they pretty much, I don't want to say they're custom made, but they're made to order. You know, he's got all the stuff pre-cut, pre-manufactured, or pre-sitting there in stock. And so when you call him and say, yes, I want a telescope, then he puts it together and sends it to you. So I got this one in January of 2020. And like I say, just right before the pandemic hit. So it was kind of my retirement gift to myself. Now this is the smallest one they make. This is a 12.5 inch f5. They make 12.5, 15, 18, 20, 22, and 25s. And if you remember, Walt Cooney was in the club years ago. He had a 25 inch Obsession, and that was something to behold. So, but as I say, telescopes are like boats. The bigger they are, the less you use them.
Walt still has it. I saw it with him at the Texas Star Party.
I figured he still did. He's retired now too, I believe.
Yes.
I got an email from him not too many months ago, and I think it was his birthday or something, and we were chatting.
He still has that. He had it at the
Yeah.
Texas Star Party.
Yeah, it's not the biggest Dob I've ever seen, but it's close to it. There was a guy up in Arkansas that had a 40-inch Dob. It wasn't an obsession, but that's too big. I thought, well, 12 and a half, that's something I could handle. And, as I get older, as all of us get older, 40 pounds don't seem like that much. And all of a sudden it is.
Yeah, it took three of us to move a 20 at Okie, Texas.
Yeah. So this is just the right size for me. Like I said, the telescopes are like boats. The bigger they are, the less you use them. And the scope that I had for many years was an 8-inch f7 solid tube Dob. And honestly, I use that a lot more than I have this, because if there's something in the sky, I can just plop it down on the patio, look at it, and put it back in the house. This one takes a little more work to it. You'll see it's not a lot of work, but it takes 10 minutes to set up as opposed to 2 minutes. So, and the other thing about Dobbs, when John Dobson had this in mind, his goal was simplicity. Now, with a lot of astronomers, they're engineers at heart. So you can take a simple design and re-engineer it to where it's a Frankenscope of some sort. And nowadays you go out and you see these Dobbs, usually the bigger ones, will have 20 different things slapped to the side of it, and 2 miles of wire tangled up somewhere on the ground, connecting to 6 different batteries or something. It's just amazing how they took a simple design and complexitized it, I guess you could call it, made it more complex. So anyway, but people that know me know I'm very much a minimalist. So I've stuck with the basic design. I own three eyepieces. That's all I have, and I've been pretty happy with it. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Again, if you don't know anything about Dobbs, you've got the base, and it rotates kind of like a lazy Susan on the ground. And then this is called the rocker box. Rotates as such. This is the primary mirror box. It sits right in its little cradle there. And then it just rotates. Well, I put it in backwards. Did I? No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. There you go. Well, the reason I'm in control is because it's not pitch black. If it was dark, you can do it.
We turn the lights up. We could get some Barcelona and say front and back on it.
So anyway, the primary mirror sits in here, and in a second, I'll show you how the mirror cell is set up in it. This is a truss tube Dob, and so this particular model has 8 poles. Some of them I've seen with like 4 or 6. I don't think I've ever seen more than 8. But these are the poles. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter how you put them in. You'll see some companies, they'll take 2 of the poles and they put a kind of a hinge right here. And that way you set them in and they're automatically connected at the top. Then you connect it to the secondary cage. But this one has them separate.
Is there an advantage to being separate?
I don't know. Sometimes I wish these were connected, but other times, it comes back to more simplicity. If something breaks, you replace one pole and that sits right on top there. The only thing you really have to look at is the way these connections go. Like these 2 would not marry up. So you just have to. And not only am I a minimalist, I'm also basically cheap. So when I buy accessories, I try to find stuff that's not manufactured specifically for telescopes, because anytime you attach
Yeah.
the word telescope to it,
Oh, yeah.
it triples the price. So this bag here that I use for the poles is actually a musician's stand bag. So $20 opposed to 60 or something. And this bag here for the secondary cage is a bag for storing Christmas wreaths. And again, $20 as opposed to whatever, Obsession or any of them sell it for. Now the knobs that come with it are these little plastic knobs, which are fine, but when you buy a telescope from any company, they have no idea what sort of accessories or eyepieces you're going to use. So sometimes you find that the balance isn't quite right. So what I did was I took two of the knobs off and replaced them with counterweights for drones, which is what these are. I'll show you in just a second. These. You can get them in different weights. So this one is 200 grams. And they come with a little stud on the end of it so you can put them together. But I didn't want that poking me in the eye or poking some, public star party guest in the eye. So just use a little Dremel tool and cut it off flush so that it doesn't cause any damage. And once you got them into position, secure it in place. Now, unlike the refractor, and I guess the Schmitts are like that too. You don't usually have to collimate a Schmidt too much, do you? Okay, well, Dobbs you do. Every time you look at it wrong, you end up having to recollimate it. Sometimes it's real easy. Sometimes it'll take you half an hour to figure out what's wrong. And when I say collimation, for some of y'all that may not be too into astronomy yet, with mirrors, you have to have the primary mirror lined up just right, pointing to the secondary mirror, and the secondary mirror has to be pointed out to the eyepiece. And with some of the older telescopes, where you had a high focal length of say f7, f8, f10 even. I won't say it's not critical, but it wasn't as finicky. When you get into fast telescopes, especially 4 and faster, f3, something like that, which some of the bigger Dobbs are, it doesn't take much to move that primary mirror to where it's completely out of collimation. This one is kind of mid-range, I guess, f5. And let's see. I see some new faces back there. Do you understand what I'm talking about? F5?
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't know who's, what experience level. everybody is.
Santiago has a scope that's about your size that he brought with him so that he thought y'all could have a little comparison between the two of them.
Okay.
He's also got a trust tube Dobsonian.
Okay.
It's collapsible.
Okay. So anyway, now that it's assembled, I have a shroud that goes on here. And the shroud that actually is sold by Obsession is made of a kind of a ripstop nylon, almost like a parachute. Remember the old parachute pants that people wore or something like that? It felt kind of like that, and it just doesn't feel snug. So this lady here, Heather, she is the wife of a guy that used to make some really beautiful custom telescopes, teeter telescopes. Double the price of this, and you've got a teeter of the same size. They were just fantastic pieces of
They
woodwork.
still make them?
No, he stopped making them
When did that happen?
a couple
I
of years
still see
ago.
advertisements.
If you look on his website, he says, sorry, what you've heard is true. We no longer make them. We still have some stuff in stock that's been built. We can sell you, but he's not making them anymore. But his wife, when he was making telescopes, his wife started a little business to make the shrouds. So this is more of a spandex type thing. It fits tight on it. What I usually do is I collimate first, and then I put the shroud on, and then kind of fine tune it.
Don, the one thing I saw at Okie and we kind of had this at Hodges too, but you put the shroud on there, it becomes a bit of a sail.
Yes.
On a windy day, your scopes will sit there doing circles.
Well,
And so I saw the guys, they'll take anything heavy. So, you get your battery packs and whatnot, and they'll tie them to the front end of the scope and lower them down.
actually, what I do is a little different. The company that made this case, I also got them to make a full-size cover for it. So when it's assembled, I can just cover it. And then I have a little harness that I made that it's a belt that goes around it, and it's got 4 hooks on it, and then I can stake it down, and I stake it down straight up, and that way it's less of a sail than if it's like this. Because a lot of times what happens when people do it like that, then all of a sudden it's spinning all around. So.
Yep, it's a lot of fun to watch them do that.
Pick one up and slam it into it. Had the TSP this last year.
So with collimation, I think just about everybody has gone to laser collimating. I still have an old Cheshire collimation eyepiece that it kind of goes back to the old saying, a man with one watch knows what time it is, a man with 2 is never sure. Well, it's the same way with collimators. You have 2 collimators, one of them is not going to be equal to the other. So I usually don't even bring that one up because all it does is frustrate me. So this one's pretty good. Shoot a beam down. Make sure, see, it's way out of collimation. You see the dot is hitting me.
Can you turn it this way so the camera can see?
Actually, let me turn it this way so you can see my hand.
So you're not supposed to see the dot at all?
Yeah, you're not supposed to see it out here, and that's why you don't stick your face in it and look down first, because if it's not collimated correctly, it'll shoot you in the eye and poke your eye out to you. So I have a little trick that I came up with. When it is that far out of collimation, what I do is take a piece of paper. can tape it to the front here. And then lay it down. You can see where it is. So long as the shroud is not on it, I can kind of bring it back close to where it needs to be before I start going for the fine tune.
I guess it's already centered on the mirror, the primary.
Not, well, it's pretty close. I'll do that again in a second too, but I just try and get this close first. Okay, I'm pretty close right there. So now I can go back. And some Dobbs, my old Dob, used to have to use an Allen wrench to collimate the secondary mirror. This one actually has 4 little knobs on it. So you can use that to center it on your primary mirror. You're using Bob's knobs?
I don't know what.
No, this actually came with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they might be using Bob's.
Well, they may be. I don't know where he sources any of his supplies from. Okay, so that's pretty good. The secondary mirror is collimated. So then you go back, and I can see it's a bit off because, again, if you've done these before, you line up the red dot into the center of the bullseye inside the collimator. Yeah, that's probably close enough for my viewing. Some people will get very critical. I mean, it's amazing what they'll do to get it. And I guess it's probably more important if you're doing astrophotography, but I'm just a visual observer. I love photography and I love astronomy, but I've never meshed the two hobbies together. So, okay, so now we're collimated. What I would normally do is put a shroud on, but I'll dispense with that. If anybody wants to come up and look at the mirror cell, you see how this is made in here. What Obsession does is they actually pre-install a cooling mirror in here. And it just, you can hook up like a little, it's probably like a 6-volt battery. To be honest, I've never used it. If you live out west where you have a big range of temperatures, 90 degrees in the daytime and 40 degrees at night, it would probably come in handy. But in this part of the country, when it's 90 degrees in the daytime and 85 at night, you're just not dealing with a
That's if
whole
you're
lot.
lucky.
Yeah, you're just not dealing with a whole lot of thermal disturbance in the area. So I've never used it. I've also, this one has a secondary mirror heater on it. I think I used it in Colorado when I was up there, and that's it. It's just not something.
How's it handled dew with it being open like that?
Well, again, I usually have the shroud on it. Okay, so it's not open, when I'm really using it. Other than up top, okay. My tail rad is usually the first thing that dews up. So when it dews up to the point that paper towels won't fix the situation, then it's time for bed.
So I'm brand new to this hobby, man. So, and I've studied enough about Dodsonia to understand.
Okay.
So why would that make a difference of shrouding? and
The
not
shroud?
shrouding?
Well,
Is there
the
any light
official
that-
reason is to keep stray light from coming in from the
Okay.
side.
Okay.
You always got either, somebody running around with a flashlight
Okay.
or just ambient light from the moon or from
Okay, so
stars.
that, that will reflect
Yeah.
into the mirror.
Yeah,
Enough to make a difference.
it helps with the contrast.
Oh.
If you've got a lot of stray light sources coming in,
I didn't think about when you're
Yeah.
viewing, you got other people there and everybody's got their light, their,
Some people will even flock the inside of their solid tube.
okay.
I didn't flock it, but I did paint it black, the inside of it with a,
Just to keep it from being reflected, you think?
yeah, my old telescope.
Okay.
Alan,
Mhm.
since we have so much dew in this area, does it help with that a little bit?
I don't know that it does a whole lot. If it was straight pointed up and you left it there for a little while, you start getting dew on the secondary, on the primary. When it's like this, I haven't noticed it much. And the other thing is if you're at a public star party, this keeps people from coming up and slobbering into your mirror or dropping candy in it.
I can understand that, I can understand from that standpoint.
Wally told me one time, and I know some of y'all probably remember Wally. He was at a public night at Independence Park here in Baton Rouge years ago. And he had his big, I think it was a 10-inch Dob that was in the closet back there. He had it setting out and he turned away and was talking to somebody. And as he was talking, some little kid came up and climbed up on the Dob like it was a little hobby horse or something. And you have to be vigilant.
Did they ever tell you about our first star party?
Not
He stopped us and thought they were from some sort of instrument of mass destruction.
Yeah, I've heard of people calling police because they think somebody has a mortar or a cannon.
I've never seen anything like this too.
I had the cops come after me twice in Kingwood when I set my 16-inch up out by the road at 2:00 in the morning. Because neighbors didn't know what the heck was going on. 2 times they showed up on me.
But Wally was quick at his feet. He got the police to turn off the lights, come over and look at the moon.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
When I get somebody to put some moon and pop on around for 30 minutes, it was awesome. That was pretty cool.
What I used to do with my old scope, and before the pandemic, is on Halloween, I'd take my scope out and set it at the end of the driveway.
Yeah, I've done that.
And the kids would come by trick or treating, and I'd let them look at the moon or let them look at Saturn, whatever happens to know.
Yeah, I did it many years, and it was the adults who hung around, the kids wanted
Yeah.
to drag the adults away so they go get more candy.
Well, several years ago, I used to take the telescope up to my kids' school when they were in elementary school. And it must have been 5 or 6 years ago. I went into a store and some guy came up and said, "Are you Jeff and John's dad?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I remember when you brought that telescope there, and that was the neatest thing." And he was already, in his mid-20s then. And it just made me feel good that, somebody remembered. And so that's why I'm always a big fan of public stargazing, because you just never know.
Hey, Don, the one thing I'm noticing as you're walking around is this one, you don't need a ladder.
No, it's true.
That's nice.
Yeah, that one I was telling you about in Arkansas, the 40-inch Dob, he brought one of these stair platforms like you see at Lowe's or Home
Yeah.
Depot or something. He had that thing with him, and you had to climb up 15 feet to look through the thing. But it's one of the few times I've ever actually seen color in a nebula, visually. Usually you have to have a time exposure or something like that. But to actually see color, that was amazing.
How big was the scope?
40-inch.
Wow. That's killer.
He brought it in a U-Haul trailer. And I want to say there's about 8 of us that lifted the mirror out. Now, which one is that?
NMP.
Huh?
NMP.
Okay, oh, yeah. That's a good one too. And that's a 12 inch also?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Hey, Don, talking about that 11-inch there. TSP,
Uh-huh.
you see the bigger ones. I've had to go up on top of a 12-foot ladder to look through one before. Because normally on the Saturday night before it all ends, all the big ones out on the field, they put it on stuff and anyone who's open to look through them there. And some of them are so big that a guy had built a motorized with tracks on it, not wheels, but
Oh,
on
yeah,
tracks.
Elvira.
Yeah, Elvira. I've looked through Elvira and stuff and watched it. He moves that with a hand paddle. The track moves underneath it. He hit another button and it actually lifts it on up. And then he can sit there with it straight and using the tracks and trundle it over to his vehicle where he's going to pack it up.
I will say that, like, so you look at this and you think, oh, you know, those of us that have used Dobsonians, that looks pretty easy to, you know, move around and look through while you're looking through. And so, and you probably have the same experience looking through 18s, 20s, and Krieg's 25. I climbed up his ladder, and you get to the top, and you stand there, and you're just ready to move the thing. And you're thinking, God, this is gonna be hard to move, and it's just like butter.
If they are balanced right.
And don't be intimidated by these big Dobs. I mean, you can really use them.
Now, most of you have probably seen these before. This is a Telrad sighting device. Years ago, everybody had the little finer scopes on their telescopes, and I never cared for them. I know a lot of people still use them. This just makes it easy, and it gets me in the ballpark. And then once I'm close to where I want to be, then I just start hopping around and find it. One thing I did on this, also on the battery for the secondary heater, I put zip ties on them, just so that in the middle of the night something doesn't fall off and fall down on your mirror. So the Telrad base is zip tied, and the battery for the secondary heater is zip tied
We're
in.
gonna bring the head binoculars.
What?
Oh, we have binoculars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, get the same stuff.
Now,
You're good.
pros and cons of this scope. Again, I talked about it just takes a little longer to set up than my old scope. It's very smooth. It moves around great. On my old scope, I had the eyepiece more at about a 45-degree angle coming up. So when I'm standing here like this, I can look straight down, or if I'm coming up, I can look straight into it. With this one, the way it's pointed out more, you end up having to kneel down or squat down if you're looking at something low on the horizon. That's one thing I would change.
Have you thought about getting a stool and just leaving it next to it? Then you just sit down and look through it?
I do, but again, and as a matter of fact, I have one of the observing stools.
Yeah.
But
There's no practical way of taking your mounting brackets.
Well,
rotate a little bit?
I could rotate the whole thing, but then it'd be on top.
Yeah.
And so you're not really gaining a whole lot.
Yeah.
So what I thought would always be good is if they would make a secondary cage that had a rotating base on it, so that you could just rotate the whole thing depending on what you were wanting to look at. So that's $1 million idea.
Well, some of them do that.
Do they? I've never seen
There's
one.
some Dobsonians that have the upper part will rotate.
Okay.
Just like old traditional Newtonians, cave optics have rotating rings where you can rotate the whole tube.
Rotate the whole tube, yeah. Mhm. So the other thing with this, I mentioned that when somebody's building a telescope that has no idea what equipment I have, the balance and the the focal point wasn't quite right for my eyepieces. I've got 3 eyepieces. They're all Explore Scientific. Supposedly they're parfocal, but I have yet to see 2 eyepieces that are parfocal. And they're close, but never quite the same. These eyepieces, the way it was shipped, would not come to focus. They just wouldn't rack out far enough. So I ended up, I think it came with maybe a 1-inch focusing tube. And I ended up putting, I think 1.5 inches into it, or 2 inch into it. Just so I could get that extra. All I needed was a 1/4 inch, but I couldn't do it. And I tried everything. I tried backing off the mirror some so that, the mirror would set farther back. It didn't work. If it would have been the other way, if I couldn't rack it in far enough, I could have just cut the tubes off a little bit, but this wouldn't do that. So I ended up just getting a longer draw tube for the focuser. And so that solved the problem.
Hey, Don, I've got a question,
Yeah.
actually. When did the convention, maybe the convention, it started with the eyepiece being on the right side.
I
Is
have
there-
no idea why that started like that. I really don't, but everyone,
It seems like custom dives are always on that side, like the mass-produced ones are always on.
are
that.
they? Okay, I was thinking more it was
That's,
a
that's
company
just a
deal.
trend.
I know Mead, I think, puts them on the other
Mead is-
side,
Trying to
or is it
remember where the light
Mead or
bridge-
Celestron? One of them, they were on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that they did that.
I've seen some scopes where they'll put eyepiece holders on both sides.
And
And I guess you rotate the diagonal. And,
I don't know.
that was years ago. I saw those pictures.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was might have been a Dobsonian that was looking at. But it was sort of an interesting idea. It allowed you to go on either side.
Now, again, getting back to simplicity, I have only 2 filters. I have a moon filter, and my son bought me this a couple of years ago. It's a ultra high contrast Gen 3 nebula filter. And around here, I've never got much use out of it because the sky is always so hazy and moist. But when I went up to Colorado last year for the Rocky Mountain Star Stare, nebulas just jumped out with us. I've never seen nebulas like I've seen with this filter in Colorado. It was just amazing. That spoiled me. I don't know that I could ever go to a star party better than the one I went to up there.
The UHC filters are doing pretty good around here too.
Do they?
Yeah, they do well with a couple of various nebulas. I thought
Except for a little bit.
the Lagoon and the
Yeah, some of
Dumbbell
the brighter
actually look
ones.
pretty good with it.
Mhm. Well, in Gonzales, I've got streetlights, I've got the whole town around me, so, anything.
Well, it'll look better from the dark sky side, of course.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It doesn't make the nebula brighter, it just makes the sky darker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's of no use in Gonzales. Okay, and the last thing I was going to say is somebody noticed it when I brought in. Obsession includes some wheelbarrow handles with their scopes. And I knew they did on the larger ones, but when this scope came, I was surprised that they put them with a 12-inch too. And at first I said, why would you need that? But after having moved it around some, these things are godsend. So, yeah.
You use those after you've assembled it to move it around? Or-
Well, I used it just to bring in the
Oh, okay.
mirror box, but yes, you can. If you can't get your vehicle close to where your scope is going to be set up, you can set your scope up completely and then slap these on and move the whole thing at once.
The sky might be clear enough to take a view of Saturn if you're amenable for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the guy that bought the 18, he actually bought the 18 and Creaky brought it to him at Okie-Tex. And so he was real thankful to have those loaded in the back of his pickup.
One thing I did was, after using these a couple times, the wheels they come with the wheels on the inside of the handles. And I suppose that's just to get you into narrower spots,
Yeah,
but I found that it was not real
Balance.
stable.
yeah.
And so I turned the wheels around so they're out further, and that gives me a lot more stability when I'm moving it.
Yep, and I mean, if there's a situation where there's a tree in the way and there's something you wanna see, it just a matter of lifting it up, slide it
Yeah.
a few feet. And
Except you don't leave these on when you're viewing though, because everybody that walks around will trip over. But, so with this mirror cell, it uses a sling around the mirror to hold it in place. And that's pretty common. But the thing you have to watch is not to tilt it the other way, because then it might slide out of the top, out of the sling.
Mhm.
So you always want to, if you tilt the scope, you always want to tilt it this way so that it rests on the sling. And I bet yours is probably the same, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
So that means when you lift it, you want to go that way. However, if you lift it and aren't careful, it'll just flop over.
Yep.
So what I do is take a little bungee cord and connect it to the back two bolts here, like so. And that keeps it from flopping over when you're moving it.
Yep, that's the one thing, like you get these, suddenly you make more trips to hardware store with ideas.
So, any questions about this?
I'm guessing you haven't pulled the mirror to do any cleaning? I'm guessing you haven't pulled the
No,
mirror?
you know, my old scope, I think I go about 10 years before I take them out. Because if you get a little bit of dust on them,
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit of
it's
specks on them, it won't make a bit of difference. And you always run a little bit of a risk every time you take the mirror out. Now, what I do is there's 4 bolts down at the bottom of a rocker box that you pull out and the mirror cell drops out. So if I'm going on a long trip, rather than leaving the mirror in there, I have a Pelican case, or actually it's a Harbor Freight knockoff of Pelican case.
Patchy.
Yeah, patchy, yeah. And so I put the mirror into there, and that way it's a little more protected, and it doesn't bounce around like it would, driving down the interstate or driving down a dirt road with it. But if I'm just around town or something, I don't mess with that. Even going up to Deep South, I think I just leave the mirror in. But when I went to Colorado and Nebraska last year, I put it in the Pelican case just to give a little more confidence that it's not going to be in pieces when you get there.
One year, years ago, when we were going to, our first Texas Dark Water was 1983. And we had a U-Haul trailer, and one of the guys had a 10-inch f5.6 in the trailer, and I had a little 4 1/4-inch Edmund optics, but in the traditional too. And they trip out west with the vibration when he was putting his 10-inch 5.6 together. The mirror was rotating in the cell,
Oh,
and it peeled all the coatings off.
no.
And my little 4 1/4-inch had like rub marks around the edge. It's still fine. It hasn't been recoated since or ever. So it's 40-year-old damage, but it's inconsequential.
Yeah.
It was so minimal, but the other one was
Oh, man.
totally ruined.
Well, this one, you can't see it, but the it's like a Kevlar sling that goes around the bottom of it, and you got 2 bolts to adjust it if you have to. On the bottom of the mirror, you put 2 Velcro patches on the bottom of the mirror. And then when the Velcro or when the Kevlar sling is around, then you put 2 more patches on top of it. So it kind of locks the sling into place. That way the sling doesn't move forward or back. So yeah, that's a little second touch that I think really works well. Did you want to put yours together?
Yes, let's go.
I feel a bit ashamed
Okay, I
because
just want to introduce Santiago here. He brought his in, so he's going to be showing his and putting his together and explain his to you.
I think you did an excellent job explaining everything. I feel a bit ashamed because I have some cables. And
Shame on
the
you.
last bit of simplicity.
Shame, everybody knows your name.
But well, I'll do. This is a new moon telescope. This is a guy who started, I think, about 10 years ago. Yeah, you see there. And I ordered it almost 2 years ago, and I got it I got most of it by the end of March. But somebody at UPS stole the mirror box.
Oh, no.
It did not came. When I was coming back from vacation, from Easter vacation, the guy told me, the guy from the Ryan Woodson, the builder, called me and said, "We found the box. It ended up somewhere in Missouri," and she was asking for a random. But well, she was caught, and the mirror box came on the April 30th. So I think he explained most of it. I don't have to go through all details, which is good. In this case, there is the mirror box.
I do like the eyepiece holder on the side. I might have to steal that idea.
Okay. Here I have a fan below the mirror to cool down, but there are also two fans to here on the side to remove also some of the thermal air. I don't remember how it's the name. So some of the convection on the mirror, and also improve the
So those blow out.
Yeah. No,
They blow in.
they pull.
Okay.
I thought they might be reversed so that one sucks in and the other one blows out and creates a current around.
I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm very bad in with yourselves.
Not that it really matters because the whole bottom is open anyway. Okay, yours has the.
This one,
Oh,
the
okay.
two poles, they are all together, like an accordion. And it's very easy to put, although sometimes it's better said than done. I usually don't do that. I think I only took it out outside my home once, and I always leave the screw poles together with the upper two. And I found that works fine.
What's the F ratio on that?
F 4.5.
Okay,
It's got a little viewhole.
I noticed it was a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
John Savine to thin out that hair and make it easy for people to stand on.
And then they make the ultralights, what I've heard,
Yeah,
flexing.
they call them ultra compacts, Dobbs
Yeah.
concession makes. And I don't know, to me, it just, the stability doesn't look like it'd be there. And having an open mirror cell
Yeah,
is just asking for trouble, I think.
Explore Scientific has a similar,
Yeah, if you have your own home observatory where you can protect it, you don't have people walking all around and stuff, it might be okay, but I just would be very leery of having a cell open like that.
So now the eyepiece comes here. On the other side,
Oh, okay, well, yeah, I saw your eyepiece holder there, so.
I told the guy my dominant eye is the right one, and he said, okay, to have it at this side. I have nothing to say.
Well, when I was talking to Dave about building this one, I asked him, could you put the eyepiece, focuser at a 45-degree angle? He said, no, everything is already, jig cut and everything.
Yeah, yes.
Couldn't move it.
So yours was probably one of the last ones because he is not making anymore the classic.
He hasn't, his website still
Yes,
says
the
it.
website, yes, but it's not.
He's not making
He's
it.
not making them anymore.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So probably yours is one of the last ones. You got it in 2020.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never met him. I just talked to him on the phone. He's probably our age. Oh. It's like teeter. I think it's so time consuming and in order to justify your time, you have to charge a lot and people just, a lot of people not knowing thousands of dollars themselves.
Well, when I'm at home, I leave always that
Yeah.
together. That helps because then it's the shape, it keeps the shape. And I just move all that together and then the mirror box and the rocker box. So it's 3 strips for the telescope. I could bring outside these 3 parts together, but maybe that brings me to the hospital. So I said after a couple of times, I said, no, I don't do it anymore. I don't have a wheelbarrow. That would be helpful because it's very fast, but at night after putting the kids in bed, you say, no.
Yeah.
So the last week, for example, I went out one night with the refractor because the tripod was outside and the refractor is 80 millimeters, cost nothing. I was too tired for that. But okay, once you start, it's faster than you think. Here there is also the shroud. In this case, it's made by Heather, but Heather is also the name of Ryan's wife. It's not the Heather, the Rob Heather's wife. But so far, I don't think she has a business doing it. She just do it for his husband. What else? I have too many cables from this night. I was too lazy to pull them out. Let me see.
So that used to be the second disc disappeared generations ago. And they were going to toss that box in the trash.
I have
I think I can do that. So
2 heaters.
modified it to hold it.
I hurried to buy them after the first time I went to the SSG. There was so much new there. Here there is also the secondary is also with a deep heater inside. But sometimes I'm also cheap. It's a different secondary. Here it's not the curved one, it's straight veins. That's for the secondary heater. And if you don't take care, it's gonna go off. It is. You put it like this. I got that second hand, the Dew Buster. Is he again in business? Because he's stopped because they are hiring.
Sorry about Ron King.
I don't know the name, probably, yeah.
Ron's house was pretty well hit or hidden on the plots.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's been working on that. And but no, he's still around. He'll probably be at Deep South next month.
Okay. I'll try to be there Saturday, maybe 2 nights for the first time. The wife is open for that. So.
Yeah, you got a trainer.
I have good. I think she owns me. Good luck. And that here, it's an encoder. The digital setting circles.
Okay.
These are the Nexus. That comes here. I have. A base that comes here. It's not that stable, but I have to fix it somehow.
I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to make something like that. I like that. And it moves when the scope moves. So.
It's not stable. I have to fix it.
Or whatever, yeah.
Basically, you connect the colors here. I haven't done it that often. It also fits well here. I discovered one day. And basically, you align with 2 stars, and it allows you to find other objects pretty easily. But there is no tracking. It's manual tracking, but if you come and there, you'll see that it's very smooth, like an obsession. So, tracking is really an advantage, and I like it more than my Celestron evolution, because you really feel it, you can move it freely, very easily. I mean, you don't have the tracking; you have to do it yourself. But going from one place to the other, exploring around, it's much better. I like it a lot. Here there's a tail rod. And yeah, you also have to coordinate it. In this case, I have more than one tool, so I ended up using only one. I also use the laser because you go when it's already dark. You cannot really use the other tools, so I use the lasers. And usually it's pretty much close to collimation.
Yeah, that's what mine is. I had it's a quarter laser.
If somebody wanna come and see it, you are welcome to see it. There's a spot here. There's a center marker on the mirror, so it tells you where the center of the primary is.
It shipped with it had the center circle.
Yes,
It shipped
it
with
was
it.
Off a little bit there.
Don, does a session have the center dot?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's etched on it.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I couldn't remember from looking. The thing is, like you see the big ones and you're just so blown away by just the scope itself, you forget to look at the little details.
No, I sent it. I had here a kind of diaphragm to reduce the output, but I love that in the first night in my own backyard. Never found it, but I do. It's good to know. But it's too wide. That's my in this case, I'm using a paracord to remove the coma. Because you at f4.5, you see it if you use the 100 degrees eyepieces. So I just use it. It's very comfortable. It's not annoying to me. Very easy to use. You can stay there all the time. Except for that. Now it's a little point. So now the dots on the center of the mirror, you wanna come and see? Set. And then the other tool to center to align the primary mirror. Oh, it's pretty about off. It's quite off. On the dashboard. Well, no. No, okay. It's done. Now it's ready to observe. Where is Saturn?
That way.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, picture of Saturn on the wall. I will give you money if you get that Saturn in the
Be careful at night that you don't aim it at the planet, it might start an interplanetary war.
Something I added afterwards is a filter slide. It's done by a guy called Roger. It's Astrocrams. And basically here you have two pieces that make a rail and you insert that.
Wow.
It comes with also
I
U-heater.
like that.
That's cool. That's
That is
cool.
not.
That's seriously cool.
That's, I want one.
I've never seen that before.
And I think that's pretty much everything.
That is probably.
So good.
I would be leery.
What's the
What
weight?
filters do you have on it?
I'm so.
I have three banner filters, the Mona Sky Glow, the Contrast Buster, Contrast Buster, no Contrast Booster, Contrast Buster, and the Semi-Apple. Do I see an improvement in planetary views with them? No.
Any high contrast filters or anything?
Yeah, there I have the same as he has the USC Gen 3 from Lumicon. I have an Osprey also from Lumicon. And I have another USC from, I don't know. Is that one? No, this is the Lumicon. BGM MPV, which is very similar to the Lumicon. The only thing, it also has transmission on the red. So the stars look a bit different. I don't know which, I don't have that myself to test. And I have an 8-speaker one.
Yeah.
Well, the UHCs are real good for general purpose.
Yes,
Do you have an oxygen filter?
yes, oxygen, yes. The one I have installed right now
To go.
is the oxygen, which adds out even more contrast for certain levels.
Especially if you're looking for planetaries.
Yeah, exactly. That's very, very helpful. I like it. In my previous scope, I had a filter slide for the diagram. And now I put them all.
It's motorized.
No, full manual.
Yeah, push to.
Push to.
That's just a heat.
Which system is it? Your push to system?
Next, yes.
We shouldn't do that.
Okay, because I think they use servo cat, doesn't he? Right?
Yeah, that you can use it with ServoCAD, but for some things it's not fully compatible. I mean, you are tracking satellites,
Yeah.
you'll need the Argonauts.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of
Anyone got any questions for Santiago?
This was good. That is not.
Hopefully, it's gonna be in the HSC in late October.
You guys gonna have a showdown then?
Well,
how
before
are
I
you
move
on
anything, let's go
Saturday?
see what the sky looks like.
Yeah, my birth certificate. My first one was
So much farther.
I went Saturday 2019 and it was a cloudy night. So I only had the moment to fill the refractor, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But then we had a good night. Last October was nice, last year was a good night.
I went up to the Nebraska Star Party last August, and it's got a reputation of really being dark skies, and I could see how it would be, except that year, there were so many western wildfires that we had one night with maybe 3 or 4 hours that you could actually see stars, and the rest of the time the smoke was so bad, just, you couldn't even see it. So that was kind of a bust, but Colorado made up for it.
I want to mention that some of y'all may know this, but.
Barry's talking again here.
October 1, which is a Saturday night, is Fall Astronomy Day. And our club is doing for the public a astronomy night at Bogachitta State Park, which is just off of Highway 25 in Washington Parish. It's really close to our club observing site. There's a horse field if you're going through the main gate and turn left, you can't miss it. The moon phase will be one day before first quarter, so it's not great in terms of really dark skies, but we've got the moon, we've got the planets. And it's as dark as our club site, which is a Barber 4. It's more of a mid Barber 4, but and the moon makes that kind of irrelevant anyway. But you guys want to do a shootout there?
I'm trying to see if I'll be back. I've got another trip up to Arkansas at the end of September.
Anyway, that's October 1, Saturday, October 1. And if you
No,
bring
I should be back, yeah.
If you bring a telescope, just sell them at the main gate. You're here with the astronomy club, and they'll waive the fee. But and they do have restroom facilities there, and there's picnic tables and stuff like that. Like our club is doing a picnic a little bit earlier in the day there, but if you come close to dusk, you maybe catch the sun before it goes down if you do solar work. And like I said, you can catch the moon and the planets and some of the brighter things that are in the sky. So October 1, Fall Astronomy Day.
And where's that?
Bogachitta State Park.
Okay.
You see where they're living the rocks.
What's that?
Just told a few other little things here.
We can go ahead and show them.
For a few more.
Maybe 8 years.
Well, what Bogachitta State Park?
Stop the lights.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Don and Santiago for bringing their scopes out here tonight and showing everyone. Thank you very much for it. Appreciate it.
Did we say it's hazy outside?
No, it's
Okay, still on live?
Yeah, we're still online, so just tell everybody good night, Gracie.
Okay, I guess that concludes our meeting presentation for tonight then. End it.